Several years ago, my wife went out for a girls' night out, and she left me home with the dog. And ordinarily on a night like this, I'll waste it. I'll waste it by binge watching Netflix or watching some stupid sci-fi movie. But on this particular night, I decided, Bert, you have to make something of yourself. You can't just waste another evening. So I decided to spend that evening with a big stack of intellectual magazines. Thought I'd pour myself some scotch, be manly, maybe build a nice fire. So I did that. I poured myself some scotch, I got some New Yorkers, and I built a fire. Now, I did a lot of camping as a kid, so this was a really glorious fire. It had like nice base of paper, it had some cedar kindling, nice dry oak, and I knew how to build it in a chimney formation to get a really nice blaze going. And I lit the fire, and I sat down with my New Yorkers. My dog curled up by my feet, and I was ready to read the New Yorkers and get some education. When I looked up and noticed that there was a lot of smoke filling the room, and I suddenly realized I'd forgotten to open the flue. So I leapt up and I went over to the fire, but the fire was already too hot. I'd built it too well, and I could not reach the flue handle. There was a fireplace glove, but I couldn't do that. The fire was so big it would burn my arm. And then all of a sudden the fire alarm went off, and the dog abandoned me. She yelped, and she went out the dog door, and I was on my own watching the whole house filled with smoke. I thought, I have a fire extinguisher, but that would create an utter mess. I don't want my wife coming home and seeing fire extinguisher goo all over the floor. But maybe I could get a big pot of water. So I got a big pot of water, I filled it up, and raced over, and I threw it on the fire. And I learned that works. That works. You can put out a fire with a big pot of water. Creates a lot of steam. There was ash and water all over the floor, but the fire was out. So I opened the flue, and all was good, except that the house was filled with smoke. I had maybe 2.5 hours, so I opened up the windows, but it was the middle of winter, the freezing air, not a breath of wind, nothing was happening. So I closed the windows. Now at this point, the dog came back in and lay down on the couch on the side. She was feeling kind of guilty. The fire leapt back into life, and it was blazing cheerily there, but the flue was open, so I was good. And I thought, you know what? I know how to fix this. We have an attic fan. So I went upstairs, and I turned on the attic fan, and it worked. It worked. I could see the smoke coming up the stairs. I could see it going out through the fan. I was going to get this done. My wife was not going to have any idea what I'd done. When all of a sudden I heard another little yelp, and I heard the dog door swinging. And I went downstairs and got my second lesson of the night, which is that when all the windows are closed and the attic fan is on, the only source of air is the chimney itself. Cold air was streaming down the chimney. The rich oxygen was filling up the flames, and the flames were shooting 4 feet into the living room. Well, it didn't take me long to react to that. I knew exactly what to do. I raced back upstairs, and I turned off the fan. I came downstairs. The fire was cheerily crackling, but now every surface of the downstairs of the house was covered with ash. Every surface. The counters, the rugs, the couches, even the dog had ash on her. So I spent the next 2 hours vacuuming. I had the windows open, I had a little fan going on the side, and I vacuumed, and I mopped up the water on the floor, and I cleaned off the dog. She was leaving paw prints. And, my wife called me, and she said, I'm heading home now. It'll be about half an hour. So I knew, okay, I can close the windows, hopefully get the temperature back to 65 degrees. And it worked. She got home, and she said, how was your night? And I said, it was lovely, a little fire, a little reading. And I got away with it for about 2 days, and then she said, Bert, why is there ash on the computer? And this lamp on the piano is covered with ash. What happened there? And I had to confess that I probably shouldn't be left home alone ever again, and certainly I should be kept away from the fireplace. The final lesson I learned from this whole experience happened about 2 weeks later when I told this story to a friend of mine, and he said, Bert, does your flue handle have a little hole at the end of it? And I said, well, yes, it does. So why? He said, Bert, that's there so that you can open it with a poker, and you don't need to actually use your hand. And so my lesson for you tonight is if you ever forget to open the flue, just use a poker and skip all the steps in the middle. Thank you.